Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rakhma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce.
To the brightness within you, and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to Mindshifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. We'd love to hear from you, your comments, your questions, especially those. There's a whole bunch of people here just in the last few days that have agreed to go to 5 worksheets a day for 40 days. We'd like to hear how your process is going. Today is Memorial Day celebration 355, so we're right at a year. And what that is that we want to end war on planet Earth, and we honor those. Memorial Day, Veterans Day, we honor those who have had to partake in war, and the way that we're going to honor them is by whatever is in us that is unlike love. We're going to deal with one issue, one thing at a time, one day at a time, and be willing to remove whatever it is that's in the form of hostility or fear and doesn't belong within us. And then when we reach enough people that are willing to do that, we'll be at critical mass, and the whole planet will change. Michael's going to be a few minutes getting on the show. I see we already have a caller, so let's go ahead and take area code 954. You're on the air. Who do we have? Area code 954.
Jeannie?
954. Yes, you're on.
Oh, okay. This is Maria Colmenares from Fort Lauderdale.
Hey, glad you called in. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. I just wanted to share with you an insight that I received yesterday while I was talking to Nick.
There's a lot of static on your end.
I didn't hear you well.
I said there's static on your end. I heard you say you wanted to share something that happened yesterday, and then you kind of cut out.
Yes, it was an insight that I received yesterday when I was talking to Nene, and she felt that it was important, and she wanted me to share.
All right. Well, go for it. What happened?
Okay, we were driving to her Spanish group in Coral Springs, and we were talking, of course, about the concepts and our experiences. And then I said to her, well, I finally understood what the meaning of the 40 years in the desert until the new generation is born. Because I always listened very respectfully, but I never completely understood the meaning. Now I understand it's not a physical a body that will be born again, and everyone will be born. That the new brain, that they are, cells of that are being guided by love and Rakhma and Cuba instead of fears and our hostility. So she was that. So she said, please go and share that with everyone.
Well, we're glad you did. And anytime there's something that you or anybody else that's out there listening, you don't understand, please call in, because if you have a question or something you don't understand, there's probably 20 other people that don't understand it too. And so your question is always somebody else's question, and we do appreciate that. But, yes, it actually says that the old generation had to die, and the word generation meant genari, or cause, that all of the old causes, all of the old hostilities and fears had to go away and their actual being show up before they could get out of the desert, which represents the unconscious, and move into the promised land, which is our space of conscious co-creation with the Creator. So you're absolutely right. I'm glad you got that. So how did the support group go last night?
It was my first time attending that group. I have attended the other one in Boca, but this one was the first time. And it's very powerful because it takes place at the home of a member of a family, but there are 4 members of the same family attending the group.
Awesome.
And it's just two generations, and they were sharing while Nene was making the presentation about how much they have changed, and even the looks, even all of those, the members of the family have changed, and they are very much into it, and they were talking about how to introduce the teenagers, and they are considering starting a group with teenagers as well. So it went really, really well, and Nene is doing an awesome job.
Phenomenal. That is great. Yeah, we had a meeting the other night, and Nene came to it, and it's the whole east coast of Florida is just going to be saturated, we hope. Nene's doing, of course, the 2 groups, the Spanish group with the Latin group in Coral Springs, and she has an English group in Boca. Then Michael and Margaret are doing a group in Boca, and then there is a gentleman named Julio that's going to start one in Miami. And another one's going to start in Pompano, and another one in Fort Lauderdale. So it's like the whole east coast of Florida is just going to be support group after support group. So that's phenomenal.
Yes, that is wonderful. I'm very happy to hear that, and I will be joining them as much as I can, because it's every time you go to a group, you always come out with a smile in your face, with an understanding of at least one concept, if not more, and then the fact that you are not alone in is just very heart feeling. It's just wonderful to know that all of these beautiful spirits are walking the path with you.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely easier to make the journey when there's someone else with you. And we're talking about the different generations in the family. You've seen that yourself with your daughter and you both doing some of the work together, and the changes that it made in your family as well, right?
Yes. Well, it's like they are not that ready yet, but I am doing my commitment every morning, so hopefully all of them will be more open, So
one step at a time, and it's building brain cells.
Yes, definitely. And I heard you are coming, and Michael is going to have a special class next week with the group in Coral Springs and with the group in Pompano, and I will be attending them both.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, we look forward to seeing you. Thank you for calling in.
It's fabulous. It's fabulous, Marie, to have you on the team, and we're delighted to be able to support you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Okay. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Love you. Bye-bye. Okay, we have 2 more callers. Area code 502. You're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, hi.
Hello?
Hi.
I just want to know if you see anything as far as a special somebody in my past coming real soon. And I have a question about my son. He's like 3 years old, and he just acts like a very old man. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's just the things he do. I was wanting to know if you could tell me anything about that.
I think that at this moment, what you're looking for is the show that was on just before us, and that's Carol Guy's show. She does more intuitive reading type things, but our work, as opposed to doing that, is really about teaching the internal process of forgiveness. And so on Monday morning, I believe it's Monday at either 11 or 12, Carol's show happens, and she does more of the reading type of thing that you're looking for. So that's probably who you want to call there.
Okay, so you can't tell me anything today?
That's just not, we do something totally different. We're not into doing readings. It's just not our thing. That's what Carol Guy does on Fridays and Mondays.
You can't do anything for me today? A reading?
We don't do readings. That's not what we do on this show. This show is about forgiveness. It's not about doing readings.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry about that.
All righty, no problem. Jeannie, I've got another call. Can you take it? Hello?
And we do. You're still on the radio. Okay, and we do have another caller, so area code 954. You're on the air.
Hi, my heart family. This is Nene.
Hi, Nene. We were just talking to Marie, and she was telling us about your class last night.
Yeah, I just heard it. Awesome.
So what all's happening? She was saying that it was like 4 different families within the same family that were all participating. That's great. I mean, the momentum within that family has got to be phenomenal.
Yes, we had a great class, and the participants are starting to read and starting to get the concepts, but also in the experience. One of the ladies there that she first came, I've been with the group perhaps for 6 or 7 weeks so far, and she first came during the forgiveness workshop, and she already did with Michael. She couldn't write a name. She couldn't recall a situation. She said that her life was perfect. And then the rest of the family were saying, no, but you remember when such and such died, and then you remember when you were and she was in such a denial. And then through the work and coming each week, every week, she comes, and then again, for 2 weeks ago, she did the healing through relationships, and she was able to connect with the 3 first memories of conflict.
Well, that's a definite improvement.
Yeah, great. And then last week I asked her, please, to start the class, like, when Jeannie presents the class, introduces and asks the questions, I asked her to do that. And she did that. And then she called me and did a couple worksheets and all that. And then for Mother's Day, she shared that her daughter, which has been their relationship has been a little bit distant. Her daughter showed up with a friend and told her mom, Mommy, I love you, for the first time in I don't know how long. And their relationship is opening.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, so I suggested to read the commitment to the picture or to call her and tell her, this is my commitment with you, honey.
Cool. That's fabulous.
And fabulous. And then after we did a worksheet, everybody, and then we did the invocation to Rucha Dakusha, the higher power. And after that, it changed something in the environment there, and people started sneezing, coughing, people started eliminating, going to the bathroom. It was awesome. Everybody had something, a headache, something.
Yeah, the healing process oftentimes is not very popular because of what it is that we need to go through in order to clean things up. So it's awesome that you are gathering people at this early stage in your career, having taught this work now for less than a year, that it's awesome that you're gathering people that are hanging in there. It took me a lot longer to get people to hang in there, so congratulations.
Thank you so much. So, we'll talk during the week. Hugs and happy weekend.
Okay, blessings. Love you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nene. And David and Tim are both with.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Anything exciting in Chicago?
Oh, I just came from a training where they were basically doing lots of good stuff until they got to the forgiveness portion of their work. And basically, if something could be the opposite of what this work does, they've pretty much cornered it.
Yeah.
And the word victim is used, and the word complete responsibility of the offender to make the victim happy and do whatever the victim wants to make amends, and pretty powerful.
Well, I can remember, Tim, when I first started understanding forgiveness, this goes back better than a quarter of a century ago, and I would say to the people who were telling me, well, all you need to do is forgive. It's like, I got it. That's awesome. Thank you. And how do I do that? And the only answer I could get was, well, you just forgive. It's like, well, no, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. How do you do that? And I couldn't find anybody that could tell me. It took 15 years to find somebody. And when we started to work with the Aramaic and understanding that the word forgive literally means in Aramaic to cancel and relate that to the goals that drive behavior, and it's taken me another 22 or 23 years to get to understand why and how that works. So.
Well, at one point, this woman said, so we get them so that the victim starts to call the therapist and say, you got to stop it. He's driving me crazy. He's calling and texting me 30 times a day, 40 times a day, 100 times a day, telling me where he is. And the therapist says, good, now we're getting somewhere. So it couldn't be too much more opposite of of the tools we're working with here for personal responsibility. And the odd part was the whole first portion of the therapy work. This is all a couples therapy approach. And the whole first portion of it, it was almost identical to the idea of personal responsibility. No one can make me feel anything. If somebody's upset, they have to take responsibility for that. They have to learn how to self-soothe and relieve their own distress and not look to somebody else to do it. So it was pretty amazing when we got to the forgiveness part, and she threw all that out the window. Are you there? Are you there?
Michael, if you're talking, we can't hear you. We still can't hear you, Michael.
But you can still hear me, Jeannie?
Yes, I can still hear you, Tim. So I'm not sure where he went. He's going to have to reboot or something, I guess. But
yeah, I heard
amazing.
a beep. So I did not, since this was her training session, I didn't speak up and say, you know what, you just deviated from everything you said in the whole first portion. But life might present us the opportunity to meet for lunch someday, and I might be able to point that out to her. Anyway.
Yeah. How many people were at that workshop?
Well, this was just for therapists, and there were 10, 12 people there.
Well,
and
maybe you'll have an opportunity to present to all of them as well.
Yeah, well, I suppose if she's willing to listen and if she can see how it's the exact opposite of what she did in the first portion of the session,
right?
She might be willing to make a correction, and then. But we'll see. I mean, she's very, the whole. Like I said, I sat there for the whole first portion and thought, this is so compatible. She's been reading
and then she
some
just
of the same books, and then she got to forgiveness, and it all went out the window.
Well,
Wow.
one of the things that I love to watch is how the lights go on in people's eyes when I throw out the thought, there are no victims, there are only volunteers, and here's how we volunteer. And notice you've been through this 87 different times with 42, and the light, people's eyes just light up, and they're like, oh, my God, I never realized it. So I'm a creator over that, too, and it sounds like if the first half of the presentation was on track, it probably won't be much of a stretch to introduce the idea that what about there are no victims? Maybe the victim has a role to play and can clean it up. So I'd certainly be in support of bringing that point across.
Yeah, I will. I'll reach out to her and see if she's open. So that's what I've been up to. More, and the whole first part of it was rather encouraging because here's a therapist who's training other therapists, and it's very compatible with taking responsibility, not blaming others for what you're feeling, learning how to be happily independent on your own before you're available for a relationship, and learning to deal with what comes up in the relationship as a way to get rid of the stuff that that you don't need and build your strength. So there were some very strong parallels.
Dr. Tim, if you've got a phone number and an address and name and such for her, I'd be happy to send her a Y video, a 2-hour DVD, and then maybe that would be, and I'll attach your name to it and say that I've been talking with you and you're gone and how compatible it was, and maybe that would be a way to move the conversation in that direction.
All right. I will. I'll work on that. First, I'm going to reach out to her, and I had to come back here to get ready to see patients myself, so I couldn't stick around and talk to her after the presentation. But I will reach out to her, and I'll let you know how it goes.
Awesome. All right. And David, how do you be today, sir? Oh, David disappeared.
Yeah. So I did a refresh to see if he had popped back in, but he's still not out there yet. So.
Okay. All right. So do we have any other callers, sweetie?
There are no other callers right now. The caller number is 646-200-4169, and press 1. That puts you in queue to talk to Michael. There's several people just out there listening. If you have a comment or a question, press 1. Let us hear from you.
And if the conversation that Dr. Tim and I just had isn't making sense for you because you've been taught all about victimhood and been invited to buy into that game, the basis of offering the thought there are no victims, there are only volunteers, is the fact that we are by nature creators. You and I are creative beings, and we create the results that happen in our lives. Now, many people, when they hear responsibility, turn that into, you mean I'm to blame, this is my fault? Misperception. That turns around the idea we're speaking about. We're not saying if you've been, quote-unquote, victimized, as the world would see it, that it's your fault or you're to blame. What we are saying is that you'll notice if you've been through it 87 different times with 42 different people, that you're the only one that was there every time. And once you recognize that, then you recognize you have a part to play in it. Responsibility, as opposed to meaning it's my fault, guilt, blame, it is a tool with which to recover a part of your mind that you've dissociated from. And so to see there's a part you play in it. Jeannie was just sharing with me, I hadn't been watching the news, but she shared yesterday that there was another tragedy in the Kennedy family. And I would love to work with that family to remove the energy that keeps coming about through the whole genetic system. You look how far and wide it is in the genetic system to remove, that is, forgive, that in the family system that keeps creating these tragedies. And as we learn that we take part in what happens in our lives, and we're willing to come out of denial. You can go back 2,000 years ago in the book of James and hear James saying, stop your denial. And then he explains, and it was kind of James actually that inspired me to start each show out with this invitation to create a world of peace and put an end to war. where James explains precisely what war is caused by. And he says it comes from the war within your members, which means from within yourself, your own inner being, where there is war, where there is conflict, where there are parts of you you refuse to get in touch with. Now, how do you tell if there are parts of you refuse to get in touch with? Notice that there are situations where there is flying off the handle. Notice there are situations where there's pain in your body and you go, I don't know why this is here, or there are painful emotions. That's because of that denial and dissociation, and that's the war within your members. And, of course, the first battleground is the body, and the second battleground is relationships, and then ultimately the world. And so James is explaining this, and as we get enough people who are willing to open the deepest dissociated parts of their own minds and clean out, remove, forgive. Forgiveness is about removing content. Then you get to change those parts and change the family system. I had the privilege about 30 years ago of getting to do some work with a fellow named Marcel Vogel, who was a 23-year senior scientist from IBM. Marcel had the instrumentation in the laboratory with which to take a picture of the high energy waves that leave the mind when we think a thought. Literally, we hold within us those energetic waves, and Marcel could take a picture of them. They are the frequencies that radiate out from us that are cause. And once you recognize those causes are within you, then you get to turn the causes off. You get to remove what never belonged in a human system. Otherwise, you get to experience its effects over and over and over ad nauseum. And so we're here to support every mind, heart, and being on the planet, learning to remove those causes that result in pain and trauma and turmoil, broken relationships, and broken bodies. So that's kind of the basis of our conversation. If there's any part of that that doesn't make sense for you, I would love to hear your thoughts and your questions so that we can help to refine the understanding so that together we can move through these causes of repeated trauma and turmoil in our lives and get free of the insanity. It's like it's just time for us as humans to be free. So if anybody's got a question, 646-200-4169 is our number. Jeannie, you have any questions?
No one has their hand up, but press 1 if you're on the switchboard, and it'll put you in queue. And David has not come back on yet. So, David, if you're on there, I'm not seeing you in the switchboard, send me a text.
We're still working through technical issues, but anyway, we're moving in the right direction with that too. So if you and I were sitting face to face, what would your question be? And you may say to yourself, well, that's a stupid question. There are no stupid questions. Your question is everybody's question. Now, one of the ways that children are controlled and are forced not to ask questions that embarrass the parents that are living a lie is they're told they're stupid and they don't deserve the space to ask their questions. And so we're here to put an end to that tale. Everybody deserves space to understand and to be supported. And oftentimes the child, who of course didn't have the brain cells for an answer that was very obvious to the parent, ends up asking again and again, and because they simply don't have the brain cells, got nothing to do with being stupid, because they don't have the brain cells, they don't understand the answer, so they ask again. And the parent, because they were probably beat up for when they didn't have the brain cells and didn't understand, turns to the child with some sort of abusive tone in their voice, abusive words, or even, physically lashing out to the child who's just trying to build the brain cells to understand what's going on around them. This is a pretty crazy and insane game that non-humans are playing on the planet, and what we're looking to do is to restore human life. And if you come into the world as a human being, and of course we invite you to imagine holding a newborn child, and you know exactly what a human life is, when you recognize that a human comes in as the absolute presence of love, and it has to learn how to lie and cheat and abuse and kill. That's a lot of crazy information you have to build into a mind to get the mind to be able to produce the holograms that match what the world has come to believe is true. You know, I use an example in the workshop of, imagine, you know, there's a little silly drawing I put on the board that people will offer. It's just a line drawing. I'll say, well, that looks like a two-door igloo. And so I offer them the task. You're going to be the person who brings a man from the jungles of South America who has never seen anything more complex than a dugout canoe. And you're going to teach this man about a two-door igloo. Now, this man's never been in an environment where the temperature is less than 80 degrees. Never in his life. And you're going to get him to the point where he totally understands a two-door igloo. Well, imagine the task. Imagine what you're going to have to do to get the man from the jungles of South America to comprehend this two-door igloo. You've got to convince him that there's a place in the world where it goes to 50 below zero. Oops. How do you explain 50 below zero to someone who's never experienced a temperature below 80? But you're going to have to get them to understand that. And then you're going to have to get them to believe and understand that that place in the world, it's that temperature for months at a time. And then you're going to have to convince him that the river that he, you know, has navigated all his life, that he's swam in and played in and fished in and gone to visit the neighbors in, you're going to have to convince him that that river becomes solid like a rock. And then somebody has a saw and cuts the river into pieces and builds a building out of it to live in. Now, imagine what you're going to have to do to build the brain cells for somebody to comprehend that who's been in the tropics and it's never been below 80 degrees. Well, that task is about the same as the task of bringing the awesome active presence of love, you, a human, into this world where violence and viciousness and physical abuse and mental abuse and emotional abuse and sexual abuse and hatred and vengeance. And in the century before this child was born, 200 million people were murdered on planet Earth, purposely. Of course, it was sanctioned by governments. They were called acts of war, so it wasn't exactly murder. Excuse me. Let's see you build the brain cells for somebody understanding that one. And so that's what has to happen to build the brain cells to move into insanity. Then, if you've been steeped in the insanity, if you've bought into and you understand and you fully comprehend all the nuances of hate and fear and anger and rage and, you know, blame and it's all somebody else's fault and, you know, if only you'd be different, then start to build the brain cells for living a human life becomes quite a challenge. And it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. So we invite you into that process. We're delighted and proud to be able to share with you that process. And glad you're here. And, you know, so even the smallest question can be the piece that's missing for your mind to be able to build a new level of understanding this work. So we want every question you've got. And, Jeannie, you've got a caller, so let's listen in.
We do. And David was just on there, and now he's dropped off again. So I'm not sure if he's having difficulty on his end or if he's just busy. But he was on there for a few minutes, and now he's gone again. But our caller is 970. You're on the air.
Hey, Michael and Jeannie. It's Carrie in Colorado.
Hi, Carrie. Welcome.
You know, it's just, as I've been listening to you talk about the child who doesn't understand how to respond, and I was just thinking how far I've come in a year, almost a year of doing this work, of really relieving a lot of that old pain that existed from my childhood. And I thought, as you were talking about it, I thought, wow, it feels really good to have my burden in that area lightened a lot. And so I'm really grateful for this work. I'm sure there's more layers in there, but this is really, it's amazing listening to you talk about it, how I probably would have been crying 6 months ago. And now I was like, oh, yeah, and I actually had that experience yesterday, too. Somebody brought up kind of some situations that existed for me a year ago, and I thought, wow, I feel like I'm looking into a deep, dark tunnel that I'm glad I'm not in there anymore. And so it's really neat. And I think I've heard you say that once we start removing those layers, it sort of gets easier. And it's like this waterfall, the layers keep coming off, and my life just keeps feeling lighter as that happens. And I know there's more under there. It's not like, I'm sure I haven't escaped 10,000 generations of wrong thinking, but it does feel like the load is lightening, and I'm very grateful for that. Really excited about it too. I mean, that feeling of waking up every day now and going, wow, I'm so excited about today. It's really
not much more exciting in the world, is there?
There isn't much more exciting in the whole world. It's really cool. I want to share something that a few days ago, I have a wonderful dog, and sometimes I will get meat scraps from someone who butchers so she can have some raw meat as opposed to relatively healthy dog food that I'm sure was probably produced in kind of inhumane conditions to the animals. So I go to a local farmer, and when he's got scraps, I'll get them. But I happened to arrive at this local farmer's right at the time when he was castrating 2 young pigs, and it was so sad. And I thought to myself, I felt this cry of these pigs, and the cry was, they sounded just like a person going, oh, that hurts, and oh my God, you've taken something away from me. And, it's part of my dedication to wanting to be, a vegetarian in my walk in this earth life. There's something in my soul that tells me that. But I thought about those 2 little pigs, and I had a cold chill in my body for about 24 hours. And what it made me really think about is it's not just them. I mean, the commercial animal production industry, this is happening to thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of animals every day. And, and other forms of something that is not really. And I thought to myself, wow, what would this world be like if there were no meat eaters on the planet? And, animals kind of just live their lives. And this civilization seems so huge and so cumbersome to me, built on a whole set of dynamics that are kind of based on fear and hostility and maybe some misinterpretations of really, truly living in love. And I just wanted to share that with you because I know, your dedication of a cleaner diet and a more loving diet is really, it's a part of being aware and conscious, I think, and being able to get more clear. And
Carrie, when you put the understanding together that Einstein gives us when he says, if you think you're separate or separated from the rest of humanity, you're living in an optical delusion. And you realize there's one life and we're all part of it. And destroying life in order to survive is an insane thing to do, an inhuman thing to do. And at the same time, as you're feeling that chill in your body, that's probably your next worksheet. How many generations in your family system perhaps did those sorts of things to animals or to each other.
Yeah.
And that's why you have that chill, that energy moving in your form. So I'd invite you to do some worksheets around that because that's a piece of work that will help to change the dynamic of this insanity on the planet.
Absolutely. Great suggestion. Yes, he was going to say.
Oh, I was just, first of all, saying there's a lot of noise on your end, Michael. But, what I was going to say, Carrie, is I can remember, and I shared this the other day, and this was, back before there was a lot of people doing a push for animal rights and all of that. I can remember my granddad when, they lived on the farm and they had 13 children and, they raised their own cows and pigs and things like that. But I can remember as a little one him saying that when they dropped a cow, when they shot a cow or a pig or something, it had to go down on the first shot. It couldn't just be wounded and suffer because he said the fear and things would run through the meat and it would ruin it, and that they couldn't eat it. And, so it would be roaming totally happy out in the field, And when we went out west last year, or year before last, you could smell the, I forget what you call them, the cattle farms or whatever, where they're going to slaughter all the animals.
Right. Oh,
you
yeah.
smell it for miles.
Oh,
yeah. Before you ever got there, you could smell it, and it was like they'd be standing up to their knees in junk and mess, and the fear just had to be rampant in that meat. And then I thought, it really touched my heart. I had to do a lot of worksheets on that when we saw that.
I think if every person had to look at that and smell it and be around it and see it while they're, standing at the grocery store market and with a neatly packaged, package of meat going into their shopping cart. But if they could be exposed to that, I think people would probably make different choices, don't you think?
Yeah, because the fear and everything from those animals is just into that meat. I mean, there's no way that you can avoid that from the way that they do them now in the slaughterhouses. But there is a movie called Paradise Farm. If you've never seen it, I actually had to walk out of the room a couple of times in the movie just in tears. I couldn't watch it.
Yeah.
And it's about this farm where they actually go rescue these animals from chicken farms and from cow, dairies. The cows have been milked so much that their sacks are dragging the ground, and chickens don't even know how to walk because they've never been outside of a 6-inch cage, and it's crazy, and the way they make veal and stuff like that, and it's just it's insane the way that food is produced nowadays, or what's called food.
I'm crying just listening to you. I couldn't watch all of Food Inc. I thought that was just, it's amazing how huge a mega industry it is, and how you just think, wow, doing what we can to change the course of this kind of civilization is definitely. Yeah. I can just see my next worksheet coming.
Take a big breath. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's quite it's just a really amazing to make these kind of commitments and to be willing to share it with people, because, people don't always want to hear the truth or the, maybe an enlightening look at how they're living. So keep changing ourselves on the inside and sharing it where we can. I'm excited. I'm working on my next book called The 21st Century Superhuman, and hoping it'll be out in the next couple of months. And I'm really going to address the whole, kind of a discussion around vegetarianism that includes a whole lot of looks at that, how the animal industry is, how it affects our bodies, how it affects our clarity, how it's been the choice of great masters throughout the ages.
Right. And, Michael, I'm not sure if that's your phone again. I'm going to put you on mute. And for those who don't know, Carrie has a website, and it's Carrie Ellis, CarrieEllis.com. And she has the Super Immunity Secrets book. And, Carrie, we are so glad that you're part of our team.
Thanks, Jeannie. Me too. It's good to be part of a team and part of a family, of people that are choosing to be awake in a really exciting time.
It's always exciting. It's always exciting when human life shows up.
It is. It really is.
And Carrie, as you breathe and process out that pain, when we were talking earlier in the show about victimhood, the pain that we each carry about these things are part of the energy that draw what we call painful experiences. There is no painful experience without the presence of pain. The event doesn't cause the pain. The pain causes the event. And so as you and I and Jeannie and everybody in our team joins in eradicating the insanity on the planet, each of us withdraws as we forgive our energetic contribution to the insanity. And the insanity has to change. So that's part of the whole process. So you're right on track.
Absolutely cool. And, you know, I knew when I arrived, I arrived an hour later than I was supposed to because the guy told me he'd be castrating the pigs earlier. The second I got there, that's what he did right in front of me. You know, it was just already going on. And it was just like, okay, my soul brought me here this moment to bring me in touch with some more things. And I was really aware that nothing happens by accident. And I counted it a blessing that it happened because I knew it was going to help me access a lot that I needed to clear around those kind of things. And, you know, bring more things to the surface and to my awareness. And very nice piece, though, that, yeah, it's the pain inside of us that brings the situations into our presence. Thanks. All right, well, I don't know. I can't hear anybody anymore, but if you guys can still hear me, have an awesome day. Bye.
We can hear you
Thanks,
loud and
Carrie.
clear.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, big hugs to you guys. Have fun in the Bahamas. I'm jealous.
Thank you.
All right. A worksheet on jealousy.
I'll do that. And you know what? I wanted to ask you one more question. Can you review again the books that you're republishing if you don't have another caller? And I'd be interested in putting in a pre-order for all of them, just sending you a check and saying as soon as they're in print, mail them to me. But whatever, if you guys have thought of that or put together a way to do that, let me know.
Okay, we'll do it.
Okay, thanks. Big hugs to you guys. Bye.
Okay, blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye. So 646-200-4169 is our call-in number. Press 1. It puts you in queue to talk to Michael. And we have a question in the chat room. They were asking if we knew of a good vibe cleaner, and I asked them, did they mean as in cleaning your vibrations? And they said, yeah. So I would just offer that the best thing for cleaning out your energy field is doing forgiveness.
And you can go to our website, www.whyagain.com, and on the right-hand side there's a link for download worksheets. That will give you the whole story of how to do it. Now, most everybody's looking for a magical, gee, is there a machine that will do this for me? There's no magic. You have to do your work, that's all. Is somebody else going to do it for me? There's nobody else who can do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. It's your work. You've made the choices that you've made, and you've come into the genetic structure that you've come into for a reason. And as you recognize that, you have the opportunity to change absolutely everything.
Yeah, we were talking the other day about, getting close to critical mass, and that someone had said that it would only take 8 people to make the mass shift, and someone else had said that there were 7 currently on the planet, and there were some people that were like, okay, well, I can just hang out and wait until the 8th person pops in, and then we'll all get it, and I won't have to do my work. Can you address that, Michael?
Well, and the bottom line is that the 8th is going to happen when there's enough support for it to happen. The critical mass occurs when critical mass occurs. And when there's somebody who perhaps is close to the edge of moving over to the next level, it may take 10,000 other people who do a particular piece of work to assist them in making the leap. So sitting around and waiting for somebody else to do it isn't going to cut it. And when the shift occurs, the shift becomes available, but it only becomes available if we're in the process of doing our work. It's not like some instant magic thing that, now everything in my life is fixed and I don't have to be concerned about anything. I still have to be responsible for and shift and change the choices that I've made. And so when, for instance, we talk about family members, when a family member goes through something, it doesn't automatically shift everything and everybody in the family, but it opens an energy window to take everybody in the family to a space where it's easier for them to do it. But it's not done. And so each person who kicks in and does their work opens that energy window a little wider, and that's what's going to create the critical mass. It's not going to be the magic efforts of one individual that's going to do the job. So our call-in number is 646-200-4169. We've got about 11 minutes left, and we'd love to hear your sweet voice and what your questions are. And or anything happening in the chat room, Jeannie. Any questions?
Nobody has their hand up, and not really any questions in the chat room. Michael, if you're there, we can't hear you. So, still can't hear him.
Am I still on, Jeannie?
There you are. Yes. Hi, Tim.
I would just add to what Michael said that one of the things that we've been trained, we've been conditioned to think that people like the Buddha and Gandhi and Yeshua were very special people, that they were somehow different. And I would offer that from what I've seen and all of the core teachings of the ancients that have resonated for me, demonstrate that these are just normal people. They're like every one of us. And they are simply people who held the willingness to go do the work. And so the idea of waiting for somebody else to reach that level of total consciousness or total truth or total that conscious state of love is a complete mistake, because, as Michael said, it's this group energy. And for the next person who's going to move up a level, whether it's from, if you imagine a ladder with 100 steps, from step 5 to step 6, or from step 99 to 100, in order for any of those people to do that, it is probably the interconnected energy of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people holding the space of love, being willing to do their work, forgiving, where a past hatred becomes a present love, creating a sacred space like that. And that's more what's going to take us into a new level of actuality on the planet.
Yeah, I agree.
I think for every one of us that says consciously, okay, I'm just going to sit here and let other people do the work, that means there are another 10,000 of us that need to be willing to work a little harder and go the next step. That's like actually creating an anchor or a weight around the collective progress.
Right, I agree. Okay, we have another caller. Area code 541, you're on the air. Who do we have?
It's Julie from Ashland, Oregon. Hello.
Hi, Julie.
Okay. All right, look, my number's up. I got to say what I got to say. I came in late. I heard Carrie's tears, and I'm just going to have to go re-listen to today's show. I was on a phone call with one of my people who attends one of the support groups. And my support groups, I must confess, are down to 2 or 3 people, maybe 4. But that's both of them combined.
That's awesome that you've got that many. That's fabulous.
Oh, God. But you know what? I just know. Well, and everybody's busy for the summer, and Pastor Rob at Unity Church is wanting to phase it out because there's not enough interest. That's his judgment, but I'm using his space. So we're taking a hiatus for the summer by vote. It all comes out. I don't know what I'm doing exactly. I just need to strengthen it and build it up, and I need to do my own worksheets. I know that, and I just can't tell you how much stuff gets in the way of that. But I'm going to see an end to it. But no, that's all. But I need to do at least one worksheet a week. If I could do that, I would be on track. And that sounds so weak, but that might be all I can do. And I know I know because it's the true, correct work, that always connects me to Source and gets me on track for everything in my life and everything in the lives that I touch. And it's just, that's the way it is. Thank God, thank God.
So my input for you, Julie, would be that some worksheets around hopelessness and helplessness might be useful.
I'm not feeling hopeless and helpless.
Well, when you say I only can do one worksheet, I've got to be honest with myself. I can only do one worksheet a week. That sounds hopeless.
Yeah.
That sounds like helplessness.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll take that as you're hearing and seeing. Yeah, okay. Helplessness and hopelessness. Okay, so if I just put that in 1A, or I put me in 1A and I put that, it's like, okay, I'll just try it. Where do I put helpless feelings?
Julie, I would put the hopeless and helpless in either the feeling or the thought, and then backing into a worksheet, put your name up in number 1A, and then pick a situation like, for instance, with the support group, and that it's folding and there's nothing you can do would probably be the thought behind the hopeless.
Oh.
And then work from there.
Okay. Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm not giving up. I just want you to know I am not giving up, and I would love to be in your teacher training this summer. Don't know how for sure yet, but, I love this work, and it is what I want.
Well, we look forward to you being at teachers training, and I actually responded to your request about that. I hadn't heard back from you, but we will work that out, and you will get such a boost in energy that you're going to see breakthroughs like you've never seen before.
I can imagine. I didn't get did you send me an email?
I think you called me and left a message, and I think I returned your call or I texted you. I'm not sure which.
No, I texted you, or maybe an email. I sent one to both of you so that you both get it in case one of you is too busy to see. Well, I'll look. I haven't seen anything come back, but I'll look.
Okay. Well, let's talk. Let's talk right after the show.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
So thanks for calling, Julie.
So, are there any questions in particular that you have, Julie, that would support you with the worksheet?
No, I do know how to do them. I love it when I can. I'm able.
When you say when I can, tell me more about when I can. We're going to finish the radio show.
All right.
And what would inhibit you from sitting down immediately after the radio show every day and taking 8 minutes to do a worksheet? Tell me about what that inhibitor would be, and maybe we can support you through that.
Okay. So I have this long list of everything that has to be done before I can get to myself, which is habit and conditioning. Like, I have to work on my taxes that are from prior years. I have to earn money. What else? I have someone coming over to help me work on my taxes right at 11 o'clock. But they're usually more like 11:15, so I could fit in 8 minutes.
So we're getting down to a few seconds left. I'll just throw a thought out. Have you read the story about the goose that laid the golden egg?
Yeah.
Would you be willing to read it again? When we finish the show, I'm sure it must be online somewhere. How about Googling the story, The Goose That Laid the Golden Egg, and read it again and see how it applies to your situation? Because it sounds like you're putting everything before the source. You've gotten so tied up in the exterior world with the exterior eye that the source of it all is being ignored. And I'm going to invite you to consider reversing that you don't become enamored with the geese and with the golden egg and leave the goose to starve and die, but rather you take care of the source first, that you give your tithe of your time, intelligence, money, and energy first to you, and then take care of what the world demands of you. Otherwise, you will drug yourself with busyness. It's one of the most common drugs on the planet. I don't have time because I'm too busy. No, I want to avoid this, so I use a drug. And I think our show is just about out of time, and we could continue this conversation tomorrow. We're delighted to be here to support you, and we invite you to bring a stranger to the show on Monday. And have the best year yet of your eternal life. We're going to be up on June the 10th. We're going to be up in, where are we going to be? In Jupiter, Florida. Then we're going to be 2 weeks after that. We're going to be in Wilmington, North Carolina. We're going to be heading to Birmingham, Alabama. So lots happening. Come play. Blessings.